In the world of Formula One, no one stays in the spotlight for long without stirring up some controversy, and when it comes to Max Verstappen, the Dutch racing sensation, the drama follows him wherever he goes. But what really sets Max apart from the rest? What makes him so unstoppable, even when the odds are against him? Well, that's exactly what we're about to explore in today's video. From fierce battles on the track to the media frenzy off it, Verstappen's journey this season has been nothing short of intense. Stick around, because you're about to hear all about how this three-time world champion handles pressure, criticism, and his rivals while continuing to dominate the sport. Max Verstappen proved once again why he's one of the most relentless drivers in Formula One after coming out on top following the last triple header. But while he clinched victory, the aftermath wasn't as clean. Max made a few new rivals along the way, particularly with Lando Norris and his McLaren. These two were seen going head-to-head during the first two races, with Verstappen pushing the limits in his underperforming RB20. What followed was a wave of criticism, with some calling out Max for refusing to give up any ground on the track. The comment that seemed to sum it up was, "Max refuses to concede any ground during an overtake, no matter the situation on the surface. That may sound like a flaw, but isn't that exactly what makes Verstappen the competitor we know? His refusal to back down in any race, no matter how tough, is what keeps him at the front of the pack. This is the mentality that has turned him into a three-time world champion." His intense drive to succeed and outmaneuver anyone in his path might rub some people the wrong way, but for Verstappen, it's just another day on the track. Christian Horner, Red Bull's team principal, opened up about the backlash, especially from Max's home country, the UK. The criticism he received for his aggressive tactics in Austin and Mexico was harsh. Yet Max's response was nothing short of brilliant. In the face of all the negativity, Verstappen went on to absolutely dominate the competition in Brazil. And this victory became the perfect reply to all his critics. After weeks of being scrutinized for his defensive driving against McLaren's Lando Norris in the US Grand Prix, Max delivered a performance that silenced everyone. But how did he do it? What made this win so significant? Let's rewind for a moment. Back at the United States Grand Prix, Max Verstappen found himself involved in a controversial moment with Lando Norris. On lap 52, during an intense battle at turn 12, Max defended his position aggressively, forcing Norris off track as the two fought for position. Norris, trying to make a move on Verstappen, was handed a 5-second penalty by the stewards for gaining an advantage after leaving the track. But here's the thing: Max wasn't penalized for his actions. The stewards ruled that while Norris went off track, Verstappen played a role in pushing him wide, leading to some heated discussions in the media. A week later, the two were at it again, this time in Mexico, where Max found himself in more controversy. This time, the stewards handed him a 10-second penalty for driving Norris off track at turn 4 and another 10 seconds for leaving the track at turn 8, gaining an advantage. That incident was eerily similar to the one in Austin, where Max once again couldn't make the corner, forcing Norris to go wide, resulting in yet another penalty. The British media took no time in attacking Max, calling his actions dangerous and reckless. Martin Brundle even called it plain dangerous, while FIA steward Johnny Herbert criticized Max's aggressive mindset. Damon Hill, a former F1 driver, went as far as to say that Verstappen's moves were dastardly stuff, accusing him of using fear and intimidation tactics on the track. Fast forward to the Brazilian Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen delivered a performance that completely silenced his critics. Coming from 17th on the grid, Max showed just why he's considered one of the greatest drivers in the sport. In wet conditions, where many drivers struggled, Verstappen powered through the field and crossed the finish line more than 20 seconds ahead of the competition. It was an astonishing victory, one that reaffirmed his dominance on the track. But for Max, it wasn't just about the win. It was about sending a message: no matter the pressure or the critics, he would rise above. Christian Horner, Red Bull's team principal, couldn't help but praise Max's resilience. He acknowledged that after a challenging period where Max hadn't won a race since June, this victory was the perfect way to respond to all the negativity surrounding him. There have been a lot of comments and opinions voiced about Max and how he drives, Horner said, but the best way to answer those critics was to put on a performance like that. The victory was especially meaningful for Red Bull, as it marked their return to winning form and gave them a much-needed boost in the Constructors' Championship fight. This was also a significant moment for Max personally. Horner noted that he hadn't seen Verstappen so animated on the podium in a long time. It meant a huge amount to him, Horner remarked. The win was not just a confirmation of his skill, but a testament to his mental strength and ability to handle immense pressure, especially after the challenging weeks leading up to it. Max's 8th win of the season brought him even closer to reclaiming the world title. At that point, he led Lando Norris by 62 points with 86 points still up for grabs. The championship was practically his to lose. As the season neared its final races, Max Verstappen remained focused, despite already being in a commanding position for the world title. When asked about what was next for him, he kept it simple: "I just want clean races." There was no talk of clinching the championship at the next race in Las Vegas, or about how close he was to securing the title. His mindset was clear: he wasn't going to let anything distract him from what he needed to do. The championship may have seemed almost locked up, but the constructors' title was still up for grabs. McLaren, currently leading, had a solid lead, but there was still a chance for Red Bull, and even Ferrari, to make a push. The tension was building. However, Red Bull was facing a challenge of its own. As Max dominated the track, the team's second driver, Sergio Perez, found himself under increasing scrutiny. Despite being in a car that was among the fastest on the grid for much of the season, Perez's performance had been inconsistent at best. With only 151 points on the board and no podium finishes since the Chinese Grand Prix months earlier, questions about his future began to grow louder. Rumors circulated that Red Bull was considering other options for the 2024 season, with names like Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda emerging as possible replacements for the Mexican driver. Christian Horner addressed the rumors head-on. He confirmed that the team would evaluate the situation after Abu Dhabi, but didn't rule out making a change. "Everything in life is subjective," Horner said, acknowledging the tough position they were in. He pointed out that Perez had undergone a chassis change in Brazil, which he hoped would help improve his performance, but admitted that the weekend's results weren't what the team expected. There was no sugarcoating the fact that Perez's performances had affected Red Bull's position in the constructors' standings, and as things stood, they were now sitting in third place. Despite the disappointing results, Red Bull wasn't giving up on its pursuit of the Constructors' Championship. Horner made it clear that Sergio Perez's future with the team would be determined by his performance over the final races. F1 is a results-based business, he said, emphasizing that Perez was well aware of his struggles this season. It was clear that Red Bull needed its second driver to perform at a higher level if they were to challenge McLaren or Ferrari for the title. "We need Sergio to be up there scoring points in these last 3 races if we want any chance of taking the fight to either Ferrari or McLaren," Horner added. The pressure on Perez continued to mount, especially with the strong performances from McLaren and Ferrari. Red Bull knew that to reclaim the constructors' title, they couldn't afford another driver struggling for points. At the same time, Perez was dealing with the weight of the criticism surrounding his inconsistent results. While he had started the season strongly, his performance had faltered in the second half. His last podium finish had been in China, 7 months ago. Since then, his results had been a disappointment, and the speculation about his future intensified. Adding fuel to the fire, rumors began circulating about other potential candidates for Red Bull's second seat. Drivers like Liam Lawson, who had impressed during his brief stints with the team, and Yuki Tsunoda, who was showing improvement with AlphaTauri, were being linked to the seat. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko had even hinted that any decision regarding the lineup would be made after Abu Dhabi. But with Perez underperforming and the pressure mounting, there was growing speculation that a change could come sooner rather than later. While the pressure on Perez continued to build, the spotlight also shifted to potential replacements. Red Bull had already begun looking at other drivers who might be able to step into the second seat, and one name that quickly emerged was Franco Colapinto. The Williams driver had surprised many with his speed and talent, and rumors started swirling that Red Bull might try to bring him into their fold. However, there were concerns about how well Colapinto would adapt to the pressures of racing alongside Max Verstappen, the team's dominant champion. Karun Chandhok, a former Formula One driver and current commentator, weighed in on the situation, offering his perspective on the potential move. Chandhok expressed caution, warning that joining Red Bull too early could harm Colapinto's career. "He's clearly very quick, no doubt about it," said Chandhok. "But I think it's too soon for him to be placed alongside Max in a Red Bull. It could destroy him." According to Chandhok, Colapinto might be better suited to a junior squad role, where he could develop further before making the leap to a top-tier team like Red Bull. Chandhok's thoughts echoed concerns that Red Bull might be rushing Colapinto's progression. While the young driver had impressed many with his performances in Formula 2 and other junior series, Formula 1 is a whole different ballgame. The pressure to perform at the highest level, especially in a car as competitive as the Red Bull, could be overwhelming. If Colapinto did make the jump, it would be a massive risk, not just for him but for the team as well. Red Bull already had one dominant driver in Verstappen, and pairing him with an unproven rookie might upset the team's dynamics. With the 2024 season on the horizon, many were still speculating about what Red Bull would do. Would they stay loyal to Perez, given his contract in the new sponsorship deal, or would they decide that it was time for a change? The names of potential replacements, including Lawson, Tsunoda, and even Colapinto, were still being tossed around, but no clear decision had been made yet. As Red Bull continued to assess their options, the team's future seemed to hang in the balance. Would they stick with Perez or take a risk on a new driver? As the season drew to a close, the fate of the Constructors' Championship and Perez's future with Red Bull would depend on what happened in those final crucial races. But one thing was certain: Max Verstappen's position as the team's #1 driver remained unwavering. His relentless drive and remarkable performances had set him apart as a future legend of the sport, but Red Bull's path to success in 2024 would require the support of both drivers. The question now was whether Perez could turn things around, or if Red Bull would need to look elsewhere to secure another championship.